Barnes will let me."
"Oh, he must," she cried. "I haven't spoken to Father, but I know that he would approve of it. I know he thinks I haven't any head for business, just because I wasn't born a boy. I want to prove to him that I can protect the company's interests. And Mr. Barnes, why, of course he will approve." She said it with an assurance that made me wonder. It was only then that I recollected that it had been one of the excuses for printing her picture in the society columns of the Star so often that the pretty daughter of the president of the Continental was being ardently wooed by two of the company's younger officials. Granville Barnes himself was one. The other was Rodman Lane, the young general manager. I wished now that I had paid more attention to the society news. Perhaps I should have been in a better position to judge which of them it was whom she really had chosen. As it was, two questions presented themselves to me. Was it Barnes, and had Barnes really been the victim of an attack or of an accident? Kennedy may have been thinking the problems over, but he gave no evidence of it. He threw on his hat and coat and was ready in a moment to be driven in Miss Houston's car to the hospital. There, after the usual cutting of red tape which only Miss Houston could have accomplished, we were led by a white-uniformed nurse through the silent halls to the private room occupied by Barnes. "It's a most peculiar case," whispered the young doctor in charge as we paused at the door. "I want you to notice his face and his cough. His pulse seems very weak, almost imperceptible at times. The stethoscope reveals subcrepitant sounds all over his lungs. It's like bronchitis or pneumonia, but it isn't either." We entered. Barnes was lying there, almost in a state of unconsciousness. As we stood watching him, he opened his eyes, but he did not see us. His vision seemed to be riveted on Miss Houston. He murmured something that we could not catch, and as his eyes closed again, his face seemed to relax into a peaceful expression, as though he were dreaming of something happy. Suddenly, however, the old tense lines reappeared. Another idea seemed to have been suggested. "Is Lane hiring the men himself?" he murmured. The sight of Maud Houston had prompted the thought of his rival, now with a clear field. What did it mean? Was he jealous of Lane, or did his words have a deeper meaning? What difference could it have made if Lane had a free hand in managing the shipment of treasure for the company? Kennedy looked long and carefully at the face of the sick man. It was blue and cyanosed still, and his lips had a violet tinge. Barnes had been coughing a great deal. Now and then his mouth was flecked with foamy blood, which the nurse wiped gently away. Kennedy picked up a piece of the blood-soaked gauze. A moment later we withdrew from the room as quietly as we had entered and tiptoed down the hall, Miss Houston and the young doctor following us more slowly. As we reached the door, I turned to see where she was. A distinguished-looking elderly gentleman sitting in the waiting room had happened to glance up as she passed and had moved quickly to the hall. "What, you here, Maud?" we heard him say. "Yes, Father. I thought that I might be able to do something for Granville."
She accompanied the remark with a sidelong glance and nod at us, which Kennedy interpreted to mean that we might as well keep in the background. Houston himself, far from chiding her, seemed rather to be pleased than otherwise. We could not hear all they said, but one sentence was wafted over. "It's most unfortunate, Maud, at this time. It leaves the whole matter in the hands of Lane." At the mention of Lane, which her father accompanied by a keen glance, she flushed a little and bit her lip. I wondered whether it meant more than that of the two suitors her father obviously preferred Barnes. Houston had called to see Barnes, and as the doctor led him up the hall again, Miss Houston rejoined us. "You need not drive us back," thanked Kennedy. "Just drop us at the subway. I'll let you know the moment I have arrived at any conclusion." On the train we happened to run across a former classmate, Moorhead, who had gone into the brokerage business. "Queer about that Barnes case, isn't it?" suggested Kennedy, after the usual greetings were over. Then, without suggesting that we were more than casually interested, "What does the street think of it?" "It is queer," rejoined Moorhead. "All the boys downtown are talking about it, wondering how it will affect the transit of the gold shipments. I don't know what would happen if there should be a hitch, but they ought to be able to run the thing through all right." "It's a pretty ticklish piece of business, then," I suggested. "Well, you know the state of the market just now."